2023 to order and request all cell phones be placed in silence. Roll call.
Chairman Wilson,
Yes?
Vice Chairman Schroeder,
Here.
Board Member Cross,
Here.
Board Member Heck,
Here.
Board Member Johnson,
Here.
Board Member Nesser,
Present.
Board Member Soller.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Excuse me. Approval of minutes for September 19th, 2023 meeting. Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the minutes of the September 19th, 2023 meeting be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Board Member Cross,
Yes.
Board Member Heck,
Yes.
Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Schroeder,
Yes.
Board Member Nesser,
Yes.
Board Member Soller,
Yes.
Chairman Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Presentation, discussion, consideration of resolution number 2023-006, requesting a proportion of public utilities easements located at 1363 North Plaza Drive, Apache Junction, Arizona, be extinguished and is no longer necessary for public use as a public utility easement. Mike.
Chairman Wilson and members of the board, we're going to pull this from the agenda item tonight, and we'll discuss it at a later meeting. We found some irregularities between what Public Works, the City of Apache Junction, has abandoned, and currently what the developer is asking to be abandoned of this FPE. So we'd like to bring it back to you when we can be consistent between what we're going to abandon with the city as what they're abandoning or what they've abandoned in the past. So we're going to pull it from the agenda tonight, and we'll bring it back to you at a later date.
Okay, do we need a motion to do that?
I say yes because it was for consideration, so yes.
Okay, so can I have a motion to pull this from the agenda tonight?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we pull 23561, 2023-06, we pull the easement until a later date.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Vice Chairman Schroeder,
Yes.
Board Member Nesser,
Yes.
Board Member Heck,
Yes.
Board Member Soller,
Yes.
Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Cross,
Yes.
Chairman Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. District Manager's report.
No report, Your Honor.
Okay. District Director's report.
Chairman Wilson, I guess at the last City of Apache Junction City Council meeting, you guys had some questions about some forever chemicals. I'm going to call them PFOS and PFOS rather than trying to say their true names here. I don't know if I can pronounce them, to be honest with you. But these are chemicals that are in the manufacturing industry out there, used in several things as fabric, household cleaning items, firefighting foams, and stain-resistant things. For chemicals, for your clothing to keep them stain-resistant, for carpeting. They've been out there, they go to the landfill, and as they get washed away in the landfill, they go into the ground and they can somehow get into your drinking water. So I just wanted to go over a couple things on what's happening in the district and how we're going through the process. So the EPA is starting to look into these forever chemicals, and about 5 years ago, or every 5 years, they come up with these unregulated contaminants that we're looking at. So UCMRs is what we're going to call them, Unregulated Contaminant Monitoring Rule. Number 5 came out in March of 2021. So they take about these chemicals that come up. People are thinking that, hey, what's happening in our drinking water? So it's usually about 20 to 25 chemicals that they have us test, and we'll do this for over a 3-year period. And then at the end of their testing period, they'll say, okay, how much is in the drinking water, and what health effects does it have to humans? And is it worth doing more treatment to get those chemicals out versus the health effects? So over the last, since 2021, we've taken all of our samples. We did not find any of these forever chemicals in any of our drinking water wells or in the CAP currently. So we will not have to do anything. But EPA is still taking all those final results in from around the state, from around the Southwest, and the nation. And by the end of the year, they'll come out with a new regulation if they're going to give us a limit that it has to be at, or if they're not going to give a limit. Currently, they're looking like there may be a limit, but it's going to be parts per trillion. So our nitrates are parts per million. Arsenic's a part per billion. These are parts per trillion. So a lot of 0.00000 on that, what you'll have to get to. And some of those testing measures we can hardly even get to at this point. So that's what EPA is working through to make sure that we can make sure we don't have any in drinking water and what their health effects are. Some of the health effects that are caused from this obviously cancer, so we want to look at that heavily, increased cholesterol in your immune system. How do you get this? It could be through, or some of these exposure to some of these chemicals is drinking water, the air you breathe, the soil, the food. As particles break down from plastics and different things, these go up into the air. Consumer products, the things you eat, fish, if fish eat them or if cattle eat them, different things that go on, it could become in their meat, so you could get them through those food in different industries. So there's a lot of different avenues you can get some of these forever chemicals, but they're obviously looking at an EPA to see what we need to monitor in just our drinking water currently. And again, currently, when we tested our wells, we did not have any in any of our systems at this point.
Good.
Any questions on PFAS and PFOS?
No. See any questions?
One question I have is just the connection to the sewer district. Whenever I think of it, sometimes for whatever reason, Mike can maybe clarify in my mind, and maybe someone else has the same question. Why do I always think of bringing Darren into this? What's the connection? Is it kind of one water and it's all the same system, or?
So some of these forever chemicals, obviously, as they break down, Darren has to take a look at them at the sewer plant. He has discharge permits that he has to reach also before he can put this water back into the ground. Or if we're looking at our advanced water purification facility later, how do we get these out of our system if we're going to treat that water again and bring it back to drinking water standards? So we're always working with our sewer district to see the quality of water he's putting in the ground, what's happening with it, how much he's recharging. So we're working through that process with him. I believe Bryant reached out to him, talked to Darren a little bit about it. They're currently not having any issues with these that he's aware of at the sewer plant currently. So we'll keep working along with them to see if anything ever happens as things break down, as people put drugs down the toilet, different things that happen. We're always monitoring those at the sewer plant to see what's coming out and what we're recharging down there also.
Question, Mayor, question? On the drugs, the prescription drugs and stuff that people flush down the toilet instead of disposing properly, do we have any issues in our sewer water with that you know of, or groundwater?
Nothing in our groundwater. I believe, talking to Darren, he hasn't had no issues in the sewer water right now. We do offer, as you guys are aware, some disposal proper ways to do that around the city with the fire district and some different things where you can take those drugs to, dispose them correctly rather than flushing them down your toilet.
Yeah, and I hope anybody watching this understands if you have these, you can go to the police department, you can go to the fire department, they'll take them, they'll dispose of them properly instead of putting them into our water system.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if I can ask, in the past, have there been issues with the water? And also, could you explain to the board how it affects, how each administration sets up standards, and then how they change, and how is that structured? Parts per trillion, and how do they come up with the standard tests?
So we're going to go back probably 15 years. I don't know if any of you guys were here with the city at that point when the arsenic rule came out. Back in the day, arsenic in the water was at 50 parts per billion. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a little bit in the water. They lowered that standard from 50 parts to 10. What does that mean to us, actually? The district at them, I wasn't here, but other water companies, they had to go install arsenic removal facilities. These were roughly between $1 million to $2 million per well that's out there. So this is some of the dollars that EPA is looking at. $2 million versus maybe a 0.1% chance that cancer could be causing this. How do we manage that of how much money you spend to make that water pure? Or was it something else that caused that cancer in somebody? They're not really sure. So that's what they're trying to balance, and this is what they go through all these processes to say, okay, how do we get from just a little bit more to help save lives, but also manage the water so that people can afford it today too. Obviously, we could treat for everything in the world, but then we'd be paying a lot more for our water. So they have to manage that to see what we want to take care of and what we can afford to. So we have to go through that process. So is that kind of your question, Joel?
Well, and also the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. Does it matter what party is in the White House, which governs the EPA, and how the levels are changed over time?
I would say typically not, but I know what your opinion would be. Say more Democratic Party would be, more after pushing EPA to more stringent things. We've had different government agencies, some bring on more stringent, some release them. We've had some, they had discharge permits, which affect really the farmers instead of our sewer district here, where any chemicals or water that flowed off farmland onto canals and different things, they limited what could happen there. But when they start limiting those canals for farmers, they also start limiting what we can put back into the streams that we have too. So different agencies look at it differently. Under Republican, they release a lot of those so that it allows people to do more on their own property. Under a Democratic Party, it takes it back. So it just depends upon which party's in the White House on how stringent they get. But we still, a lot of these things we do with UCMRs, all these unregulated contaminants that are in our water, it's a long process. It's not something that happens in just one term either. It happens over several, sometimes 5, sometimes 10 years as we get through that process. So as UCMRs, like I said, it started in 2021, and then in 2023, we may not even put it into effect for another 5 years of what those constituents be and how high they could be, but they'll start giving some of those regulations so that we can start, do we need to start a treatment process, do we not, and give us time to get to that point when we need to.
Mayor, one other question.
Yes.
How's your billing going, the new billing thing? Just an update on that.
Sure, absolutely. So we've rolled it out, doing a great job. Since the first week, our phone calls have slowed down. We've implemented our IVR where you can pay your payment over the phone and go digitally in and put your credit card information in and make those payments. So that's went really well. We still have upset customers that we change systems. You know, we haven't changed systems in 20 years, but we still have those 10, 15 customers that call in and think it's the worst system in the world just because they can't figure it out. Well, we like calling them back and saying, hey, if you need some help, come on in. We'll walk you through the process. This is new for everybody. It's new for us too in the system. We're trying to get through it. Most will take us up on it. Some still don't and still complain about it, but we're trying to get out the information to them what they need. Staff has done a great job of working with them. I know your wife has called in and we worked through that. Several of you guys have on the board here have talked through it. More than willing to work through that. We do still have some more changes coming as we move forward, adding some different features where in the past on shut-off days, we'd pick up the phone and we'd call people and say, hey, you need to pay your water by 10 o'clock, otherwise you're going to be shut off. We do have another feature where we can put that in and it'll manually either text you, send you an email, or even give you a digital phone call saying, hey, your water's going to be shut off, and then we don't have to manually do that process anymore. So that's moving along. We did have a couple mistakes. We did send out a large bill to a couple customers. Luckily, some of them came back nice. When you receive a $50,000 water bill, you're wondering what's going on. We'd hopefully catch those, but we did have a few slip by the cracks, and luckily the customers laughed about it and came in and discussed it with us, and we made sure we corrected their bill on those occasions that happened. So it's moving along great. I think it's going to help reduce some of the time that we spent manually putting in data and give us more time to actually look at some of the things that are happening throughout those with leaks and different things that happen so we can support our customers a lot better.
Thank you.
Mr.
Yes.
Chair. Mike, getting back to the UCMRs, is that what it is? I know at the last council meeting, we had a resident that got up and talked about this forever chemicals things. Are you aware, are there other cities in the greater Phoenix metropolitan area that are having problems with that, you know, that this, I mean, is it really rampant or is it very?
There's been several other cities that do have these forever chemicals. They found in some of the wells. More in where Motorola was, or larger chemical or industrial areas where they had these facilities. They even treat for different chemicals that we don't even treat out here that aren't even regulated on EPA's radar. So they have to treat for some of those that went into the ground in the past. It's mostly industrial areas that you're going to see a lot of that, or airports or different things where you see those fuels and things that are happening. And great for Apache Junction, we haven't had any of those industrial areas here, so we haven't seen a lot of those chemicals in the ground.
We're hoping to get some industrial.
Be careful what we ask
Might have
for.
to be careful what you ask for.
As long as it's not Motorola.
Questions, but I got one in the aspect now. The wells around the, almost said sewer plant, excuse me, the dump, are we seeing anything you know, have we monitored any of those wells, or is it strictly just the dump people are monitoring it?
So the landfill has to monitor their wells. They have monitoring wells all the way around their facility. They have to monitor for certain chemicals. We have not seen any go up in our drinking water well. That's roughly about a half a mile away from the landfill. But they monitor, they'll keep track of it to see what's happening. If they see something happening, I haven't heard much about here, but for mining industry, they have to keep track of some of their wells that they have out there to make sure that their plumes aren't moving upstream, downstream into drinking waters. And do we have to treat for some of those constituents that are in there at that point in time? We'll work through that process if something does happen at landfill. Fortunately, our water is pretty deep here in Arizona, so it does take a long time for some of that stuff to happen. But we'll have to keep monitoring, and ADWR also monitors along with us with ADEQ to make sure that we don't see any of those chemicals coming into drinking water.
Maybe that's something we can ask them, see if it's,
We do, and you asked for that as part of the landfill ordinance back 5 years ago, Matt. And every January, we just reviewed that report, and every January, so we're gonna be getting another one here in a quarter. We'll send it out to you all so you can see the report, and we can even forward the one from last January. But every January, let's get that up, Matt, and send it to them. I think it's handy. We were reviewing it after the last council meeting in preparation, and they don't have any upticks or anything going on there, yeah.
Yeah, roughly about,
if they were getting anything there because of the closeness to the dump.
Yeah.
I think after the last time you guys made the last agreement with the landfill, they drilled some new monitoring wells. They reached out to us about our well, how deep it was, where we were screened off, where we're taking our water from. They worked with us through that process as they were developing some of those monitoring wells to make sure that it wasn't affecting us.
Yep. Well, thank you.
Any other questions, Ed? Another update on development down south. We're constantly installing meters. We have roughly about 200 new residents here in Apache Junction, just in that 4 square miles down there, and it's not stopping right now. We've set probably over 600 meters down there already. Most of it's for construction and putting up the houses and testing their plumbing in their house, or the new builds. So they're working through that process, but they are quickly moving through all that. Currently, we're still on our temporary, using our 30-inch transmission line to serve those customers down there. We're hoping to have the water campus that will service that area online here December, January-ish area. The developer's having some supply issues, so we're working on some backup generators and some different things just to run that system in the midterm, roughly for 6 months until we can get all the manufacturing things worked out and get them installed out there. Working through that. We also are working on our expansion at our water treatment plant. The first filter has been online for the last 7 years. We'll have our second filter coming online here shortly, roughly beginning of January. We'll hopefully have that online. All the new items that need to be installed with the facility won't be done, but at least we'll have another filter so we can treat some of that water to start sending to those new customers to the south. So we're working through that process. Doesn't look like it's stopping right now, so we're working with a developer on purchasing additional filters right now. The manufacturer is telling us that roughly 2.5 years out. So the developer wants to get ahead of that so that we don't have this where we're worried about where's that next drop of water coming through, physical water, of delivering to those customers. So they're thinking possibly in the next 2 to 3 years, they may be through that second filter and extending onto the third filter and fourth filter and fifth filter. So we'll be working with them here in the next 6 months to get through that process to make sure that we procure all those long lead items and make sure that we don't have any issues with water supplies. Physical water supplies. We have a lot of paper water supplies, but physical water supplies is what I'm talking about currently. Also, our non-potable system is going well. The tank is being built currently. Roughly, it's going to take about 6 months to get that one up and running, but that will offset some of the demands down south, and that was the whole goal of doing that. We can take that effluent water to service a lot of their landscaping, which is probably about 80% of the supply that we're sending down there to the new development, to service all their parks, their landscaping, all the construction that's happening down there, so we can use that type of water rather than using potable water. So great benefit to them. Okay. As you can see, Ironwood's getting paved on the west side of the road, so that's coming along also. We do have our water main in there, so we keep a constant eye on that. So we'll be making sure they take care of some of those things as we go through this. So great news for things that are happening here. So any questions on any of the facilities to the south currently.
Don't see.
Nope. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. District Treasurer's Report. Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion, I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.